Crimson Contagion was a simulation administered by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services from January to August 2019 that tested the capacity of the U.S. federal government and 12 U.S. states to respond to a severe influenza pandemic originating in China. The exercise involves a scenario in which tourists returning from China spread a respiratory virus in the United States, beginning in Chicago. In less than 2 months, the virus had infected 110 million Americans, killing more than 500,000. The report issued at the conclusion of the exercise outlines the government's limited capacity to respond to a pandemic, with federal agencies lacking the funds, coordination, and resources to facilitate an effective response to the virus. Several tourists fall ill with a respiratory illness while in China and fly home to their respective countries before fully developing symptoms. The virus spreads quickly throughout the world, with the first detection in the United States occurring in Chicago. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you would like to view more of our videos. Have a nice day.
Yo, what's good with y'all, man? So, back again with another audio recording for one of my articles. And as you guys saw in the intro clip, we're going to be talking about one of the pre-COVID virus simulations that the government was running in preparation for the pandemic that was released on us a couple years ago. Yes, I said pandemic, and I feel like just from the title video, like everything from them having the alleged influenza virus releasing in China and then being carried to America by travelers, like it's eerily similar. And that virus, that simulation was run a full year before COVID, and it's just, what a coincidence, right? Just by chance. Anyway, this would be a shorter article, but let's get into it, man. So this would be Plandemics Volume 1, and the title of the article is Crimson Contagion. Also, before I start, I want to give a huge shout out to Zachary Hubbard. He is the person who taught me about a lot of these virus simulations. There are multiple, and we'll talk about the other ones as we get further into this series. But he also has a couple books. He's actually also the person that taught me about gematria. If any of you guys know what gematria is, then you should look it up. But that's something where if you consider yourself like a conspiracy theorist, or you really want to know about what's going on in the world, you want to learn about the powers that be and how they carry out certain rituals and things like that, you should definitely look up Zach Hubbard on YouTube and look up gematria as well. But anyway, let's get into it. Crimson Contagion. If you don't know what Crimson Contagion is, you really should. Crimson Contagion was a simulation run by the government back in 2019, a full year before COVID, that simulated how the world will react to a global pandemic. Pretty strange, right? Receiving minimal media attention, the New York Times, surprisingly, was one of the few major media outlets to shed light on this exercise. Take a look at this quote from the article, fittingly titled, "Before a Virus Outbreak, a Cascade of Warnings Went Unheeded." That scenario, codenamed Crimson Contagion, was simulated by the Trump administration's Department of Health and Human Services in a series of exercises that ran from last January to August. The simulation's sobering results, contained in a draft report dated October 2019 that has not previously been reported, drove home just how underfunded, underprepared, and uncoordinated the federal government would be for a life-or-death battle with a virus for which no treatment existed. The draft report, marked not to be disclosed, laid out in stark detail repeated cases of confusion in the exercise. Federal agencies jockeyed over who was in charge. State officials and hospitals struggled to figure out what kind of equipment was stockpiled or available. Cities and states went their own ways on school closings. And once again, that's via New York Times. And something that really stuck out to me about this quote was where it said how underprepared and underfunded they would be for a virus for which no treatment existed. Like, why were they preparing for a virus for which allegedly no treatment existed? Like, it could have been anything. It's just weird to me. And then you have the whole, there are a whole bunch of people who are skeptical and just uneasy about how they could so quickly create, that medicine, that jab that they created. It's just so coincidental and eerie. It's just weird, right? It's just weird. Anyway, seems pretty convenient, right? A simulation for a global pandemic taking place an entire year before COVID ravaged the world, perfectly predicting each and every situation and possible occurrence. The shortcomings of the government, economic shutdowns, the chaos, deaths, and rioting, almost like they knew or planned our current environment. Speaking of the word contagion, it brings to mind the popular movie of the same title. If you guys have never seen this, I actually watched this movie at a summer camp that I went to. Shout out to all my Reach brothers if you're watching this video. But I remember watching it. It's basically like the same situation as COVID. There's this virus. It may have started in China as well, but there's this worldwide virus and everyone's dying and they're trying to find a cure. It's basically like it was a movie about COVID, but it came out in like 2011, I believe. You can look it up. But just looking at the title, I know you noticed that it says nothing spreads like fear. And I'm sure we're also all aware of the gaslighting, the propaganda, the fear mongering that was going on, that facilitated and allowed for, the lockdown, the forced jab mandates, because they pushed so much fear about this virus. And even they would sneak in like little like, oh, you have basically like a 99.9% of surviving. There's only like 0.001% of the population has died, yet they still found a way to fearmonger and to scare people into accepting all of these totalitarian, dictatorial mandates. So don't let anybody scare you, man. Was this film another form of predictive programming? It seems as though a group of important people have seen the current environment looming for decades. With the various films, books, and government simulations, is it outlandish to think that our current environment is being guided, directed by shadow figures with vaporous motives? Or is it all by chance? So yeah, man, I told you it was gonna be short. Like I said, there are two more simulations that I'm gonna talk about and later on in this series, but I just definitely wanted to make you guys more aware of Crimson Contagion because it's just so weird to me. It's so coincidental. And we all know if you really tapped in, there's no such thing as coincidences. Nothing is by chance. Everything is by God. But yeah, I just wanted to make you all aware of Crimson Contagion because I know a lot of people are skeptical and uneasy about the virus. And even now, like how quickly they kind of just stopped talking about it and left it alone. But it was it literally changed the world. Like it literally changed the world. We still going to online school, working from home. People still be wearing masks. But they were clearly planning something way in advance. And yeah, we'll talk about this some more as I continue the Plandemic series. But yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you in the next video. By chance.